This is Up Close. I'm Stephen I. Weiss. In this week's episode, examining ourselves and how we and the organizations we're a part of can better achieve our goals. Meditating is the hot new thing for major corporations, and New York Times business reporter David Gellis has been meditating for more than a decade. He brings his personal experience to bear on his reporting in Mindful Work, How Meditation is Changing Business from the Inside Out. And then, for decades now, we've been told that the way to think about what we want to achieve is to think positively, but scientific research shows otherwise. New York University professor Gabriele Oettingen discusses her book, Rethinking Positive Thinking, Inside the New Science of Motivation. But first, here's my interview with David Gellis, business reporter for the New York Times, focusing on meditation. I mean, this isn't necessarily what a lot of people are going to expect you to talk about.
Well, this book really brings together two parts of my lives. For 15 years, I've been interested in meditation, practicing, lived in monasteries for a time, I've gone on long retreats, and then I've also become a business reporter, first for the Financial Times and now for the New York Times. And then a few years ago, I noticed that, in fact, these two worlds were starting to come together. At businesses, large and small, around the country, people are actually practicing meditation. So when I started hearing about this, I went out, I wrote a big story about it for the FT where I was working at the time, and all of a sudden it became apparent to me that there was this real movement developing across the country and around the world, really, and I set out to write a book about it.
And what do you find when you see corporations practicing meditation? What is it about it that's making it interesting to corporations or valuable for corporations? And what are some of the limits to that?
I should say it's not just corporations. It's small businesses, it's medium-sized businesses, it's nonprofits. This isn't just about the corporate world, it's really about everyone who works. And we're seeing it show up at small companies to big multinationals and everywhere in between. But what do all those people have in common? It's that at some level or another, they're stressed. We're all stressed. I'm stressed. I suspect you get stressed from time to time. And meditation has been proven a very effective tool to mitigate that stress. And that's the starting point for a lot of people.
You're an M&A reporter, mergers and acquisitions reporter, which is about the most stressful business reporting gig there is. There's just kind of, at any given point, it's like at the drop of a hat, you're off to the races on any number of mixed metaphors about just going through an all-encompassing story. How are you incorporating that?
It's true. I do have to write stories in the middle of the night, crack of dawn in the morning. It's very much an always-on beat. And that's exactly where meditation and mindfulness can be a help. So when I work, I work. And when I'm not working, I try not to be working. And that simple ability to really focus on what you're doing at the time you're doing it, rather than being distracted by thoughts of the future or dwelling about the past, that's actually a really useful tool.
And now, why thinking positively isn't the best way to make your dreams happen with Gabriele Oettingen. So a funny thing happened with your book. A week ago, I was sitting there, and I was imagining myself having read this book. And I kept imagining it, and I used the art of positive thinking. And for an hour, I did this. An hour went by, I had not in fact read the book. What was I doing wrong here?
You fantasized yourself in having read the book.
But aren't we told by so many people positive thinking is what gets results?
I know. Everybody is kind of sort of thinking that positive thinking brings you into your desired future. But actually our data show, and our data since about 20 years, have shown that this is not like that. It's more complicated.
What led you to this idea in the first place? Where'd you get the idea, maybe all this positive thinking isn't working out for everybody?
At the beginning, when I started to work on thinking about the future, I thought that expectations, the likelihood judgments that things will happen in the future, and daydreams work in the same direction. So that the more positive your daydreams are, your fantasies are, the more you actually try to reach them. And then we did some studies, and then we showed, for example, that the more positively overweight people fantasized about their success in weight loss, the less weight they lost 3 months later, 1 year later and even 2 years later. And then we thought, oh, did we make a mistake? Because the results were just opposite what we had been thinking. But then we replicated these data, and we replicated and we replicated, and then finally I needed to give up my idea that positive dreams and fantasies per se would actually bring you achieving them.
Thinking negatively about things is actually what gets stuff done sometimes, right?
Well, but thinking negatively alone doesn't do it either.
But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But what you really need, and what our data show, is that you design your future in a positive way, that you dream about the future, but then you don't stop there. But you say, actually, what stops me? What holds me back from actually reaching the positive future, from actually going all the way there? And then by imagining the future, getting direction for action, and imagining what actually stops you, what is it in you that stops you? By imagining that, by finding that obstacle and imagining that obstacle, you get also the energy to follow up on your desired future.
That's all for this week's abbreviated web episode of Up Close. A reminder, you can see the full episode of Up Close on the Jewish channel on cable, or listen to the full audio of the show as a podcast, available on iTunes and your favorite podcast player. The Jewish channel is available on cable: Time Warner Cable Channel 1640, IOPLING Channel 505, RCN Channel 268, Cox Cable Channel 1, Bright House Channel 330, Verizon Fios Channel 900, and on Comcast on the on-demand menu on premium channels. For more information, visit tjctv.com.